talking through tonight's MLB Monday slate. Sheets, you made a hell of a run yesterday, man. That was a great one. Beautiful. The fourth place in the 888, was that what it was?
Fourth in the 888 or 777. Also like fifth or so in the lottery.
I didn't see that.
Dude, the lottery, I was one double away from winning the whole thing.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's all right. But it was really funny because I was sweating it, and listen, I Philly in the main stack, and they were up 9-0 the first inning. I'm like, I might be onto something. God forbid Mikolas could do anything. That would have been nice. Mm-hmm. But nonetheless, so this was actually really funny. So I got I thought I had gotten fifth in that big one, and I didn't even realize there were games still going. I thought the rain games were like dead, right? So I actually posted my results on State Kings. And I reported my results, and then they paid it, whatever it is. And then someone went in the State Kings and said, there are guys still playing, right? I'm like, oh, you serious? I'm like, there are guys like the White Sox that are just chasing you down in all these things. And I'm like, oh God, I'm gonna have to change this. And then I had to fade 5 White Sox coming up in the 7th, 8th, and 9th innings, and they all made out. Okay,
right.
Not to mention, so I'm like, shoot. And then just for extra juice, they actually gave me a stat correction to move me to 4th in the big one.
Oh so my God!
I ran hotter even after I was done than whatever. So yeah, that was definitely fun, and that was obviously pretty annoying that Mikolas couldn't do anything. But I'm very happy with the way I did.
Yeah, man, that was awesome. I love seeing the good results. I actually feel like we've been on a good baseball kick in general. And some people in the Discord, I know there's been a lot of people threatening the leaderboards, not necessarily winning the tournaments, but threatening the leaderboards. I had my, a really, really good baseball week last week during the week. Had a couple terrible days, and the rest I won 5 out of the 7 days or whatever. So it was really good. We were able to get in some stuff on the weekend. I did shows every day this week, which was kind of fun because I wanted to talk a little bit about the NBA and where I saw that going. So it was a really fun weekend from that perspective. It would have been nice to win a little more money. I cashed barely in that same tournament. I of course used Bieber, who had even less points than Mikolas as my second pitcher. So that was unfortunate with the Philly stack also. And we didn't talk about anything, but we had the same sort of idea. Lineups were just a few players.
So here's another thing I wanted to bring up to everybody. Listen, I'm not embarrassed to talk about other sites and stuff like that. So I want to shout out to an interview that I saw, and I'll tell you why in a minute. So we all know, most of us know Adam Levitan from Establish the Run, among other things. I know Adam back from poker, whatever it is. It's been around forever. And obviously Bobby knows Silva back from the RG days and whatever. And they run a good stuff, especially with football over there. And they did an interview with Utica 2 weeks ago, and for an hour and talked to him because he never really talked about his stuff. He was very, very private. He doesn't want to make millions in DFS the last couple of years.
Right.
And they did an interview for an hour and 20 minutes, asking him about his process, about everything. And I got a chance to watch the whole thing. I watched the whole thing this morning. And I encourage everybody to watch it. And the reason why I thought it was pretty inspiring was that, and you'd appreciate this, is that he wasn't a guy who just ran these sims and algorithms and off of whatever and data points and stuff. He actually seemed like he likes sports, he cares about what goes on in the games, and it just felt as though he was just an actual person that just did well because he he kind of worked hard and just kind of enjoyed it. He didn't have 400 computers with a whole staff of people running optimals and stuff like that. He's able to do everything by himself. Listen, he does do some of his own projections though, so he does work as far as that goes. But he seems a guy that made and makes a lot of money just doing it right. So I encourage everybody to watch that. It was a pretty cool interview. So
yeah, it's a great idea, and it just reminds me of a point we were talking about doing this week, and people got kind of into it the other day. I know Scott McCarty is the one who wants to do it with us. But we want to do start doing that roundtable discussion again. I think it's really interesting to check out other people's perspective because you'll hear very different takes on what's important in DFS. Yeah. But mostly it's going to be somewhat aligned with the way people think. Right. Anyway, I just think it's interesting, and it reminded me that we want to set up a time for that. So I told the guys that probably it'll be not this week but the following week that we start doing it. But I'm ready to get in on that, and I think we'll get Rhodey and we'll get Goldie, we'll get other people to weigh in. We'll get other former successful guys. We'll try to talk to Adam and Oren and see if they can talk a little bit about their process as well. But I do think that's a really important part of the game. Anyway, getting into today's slate, hopefully we can at least duplicate what Sheets did yesterday, or that's what I'm hoping for, because that was a really, really nice day. Yep. So with that, getting into it, Sheets, first game of the night. I'm gonna just do my doubling up of the weather person as along as this goes, because we're getting weird storms across all over places and just stuff's happening. So I'm just keeping an eye out, because it's really strange these days. You see, like, in the same city, you'll see 85 degrees one day and like 48 degrees the next day, and it just feels very strange when that happens. All right, so for this game, the Philadelphia and the White Sox. Look, I am absolutely going to take the overweight on Wheeler at first glance look, and it scares me as a matchup for Lance Lynn. Philadelphia just scares me in general to take pitchers against, but I'm not going to write off Lance Lynn, because I think the ceiling is tremendous. We saw it last time out. He was really, really good, except for, give up 2 home runs. If he doesn't get those 2 home runs, he really cruises. So I won't write off Lance Lynn, but I do have Wheeler as one of my priorities at first look. I just don't trust this White Sox team, especially missing their best hitter probably right now. I'm totally cool with taking a shot with Wheeler here, even though there's winds blowing out, but it is 41 degrees for what it's worth. Like serious winds, 24-mile-an-hour winds. And it doesn't matter as much as it does at Wrigley, but it matters a lot for the White Sox as well. And 24 miles an hour is a lot. I just don't think that I want to go after it personally from a hitter's perspective. What did you have?
Yeah, so I have Wheeler and Lynn. Without knowing about the wind, right? I had Wheeler and Lynn as kind of good kind of SP2s. I have obviously a top SP1, which everybody will have, and then it's kind of a battle for where you go with SP2. But maybe that's not exactly clear either, but we'll get to that. So I definitely have Wheeler as one of my 5 or 6 guys that I can play. I also have Lynn as one of my top 5 or 6 guys I can play, which is, as you mentioned, is pretty scary. And you throw in the possible 20-mile-an-hour winds blowing out, like you mentioned, probably going to be enough to get me off of this. I'll tell you, the White Sox, even though they've been, they sometimes been putting together some shady lineups, they've been hitting the ball, So I'm probably off of this. I just have a different route that I think I'm going, which I'm going to get to. But I'm certainly not going to argue with Wheeler. I think Lynn is kind of like a lower owned play I would play, but even him, I see him getting like 15% plus. So I'm probably just going to end up avoiding it. I do like, though, Philly, like in general, as a good stack today. And if you put in like the 20-mile-an-hour winds blowing out, I think it's going to really kind of probably move them to the top for me, or certainly near the top. So I'm going to keep an eye on Philly, and probably not going to get to the White Sox.
Yeah, I think that makes perfect sense. Moving on, what do you think about this? I guess this is going to be your obvious starting pitcher, I'm going to assume. DeGrom and Lyles in KC. Sheets, what are we doing here? Because I know we have a Coors game on the slate, which is always fun because that means you can play other stacks that would usually be popular at lower ownership. To me, this feels very much like a DeGrom and stack Texas, even without Seager. It just allows you to stack them cheaply. It feels like a DeGrom and stack Texas day for me.
It feels like a DeGrom and stack Texas day for me as well. DeGrom at in the lottery he'll be 50%. In the 555 he'll be 80 or whatever.
Yep.
As far as now, again, Lyles is a righty. So I don't know if that matters too much, but like as far as like the best plays, Simeon, Garcia, Jung, Lowe, Heim, if he gets it, you know what I mean? Like just the normal guys. And I wonder if this is even too chalky, play DeGrom with Texas. But that's certainly looks
going to be that popular because I don't see any projections showing Texas as being popular.
No, I don't either. That's the whole thing. It just looks like something you'd want to do though.
Right.
So yeah, so I agree with you. I like Texas, and I like obviously I like DeGrom, and I like DeGrom with Texas.
Mhm.
And am I missing any players in here that we should be playing besides the guys I mentioned here?
Lowe, Heim, Simeon, Josh Smith is going to be really cheap, probably at the top of the order. Depends on where Brad Miller hits. But then you've got the Garcia and Jung. I would focus on those guys and then include some Grossman. Everybody else is just sort of like Jankowski, whether he plays or not. Tavares, I guess depending on where he's hitting, maybe. And Brad Miller, if they're all at the bottom of the order, I'm okay with skipping those guys, but I would probably include some of them in some builds. I just think that it feels like a good thing to do right off the bat. And again, if you don't feel good about Jordan Lyles, there's a lot of people say, oh, he's better than everybody thinks. Yeah, whatever. I look at the advanced numbers, like it'll come back. It'll come back to him at some point. But I think if you wanted to argue for a 3-man Texas stack, I think you'd probably be looking at guys like Lowe, Smith, Simeon, and Garcia, and picking 3 of those guys, maybe Jung too.
Yep.
I do want to point out that DeGrom, it's interesting that this year DeGrom, every game he pitches, it used to have like a 2 projected run total on the other side. It's always been over 3 this year. Just throwing it out there. I still very much like him today. It's not going to change what I do. He dominated these guys the other day, or was really good against them. It's a little worrisome. I don't like the back-to-back pitcher matchups. I'm just trying to play devil's advocate because I actually think that the owner.
You could do it. I mean, you could play, for example, we'll get to him, but you could play Burns with one of these other guys. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, and just hope that that DeGrom doesn't get 40. You know what I mean? Like who's to say that DeGrom, like a DeGrom, XYZ pairing? I don't know who would you pair him. Let's say DeGrom Lynn, because Lynn's 15%, right? You put those 2 together. I mean, who's to say that instead of DeGrom Lynn, that Burns Wheeler don't outscore those 2? You know what I mean? I don't know. So DeGrom's the best play, but he doesn't have to get 40.
Yeah, we just got a note from Jolly saying the Philly and the White Sox were postponed. That must have happened very recently. Why would they have been postponed? Is it just ugly weather? Maybe just windy and 40 degrees. Wow, that's interesting. Right off the bat, we might have a game. The game we just talked about. We're just going to cut it off for right now, possibly. And Jolly's pretty.
That is a little annoying because those are 2 pitchers that would really be a battleground. I'm not saying you have to play them, but
that's weird because it's not even rain. It's not like necessarily going to rain even. It's just crazy windy and cold. So that makes me nervous about the other game, by the way, which we'll talk about before we.
Yeah, it does look like it's been. It's out.
Yeah. That's interesting. That's gonna change things a little bit. DeGrom is going to be much more popular even than he was.
Well, and it's certainly less likely that a Burns Wheeler combination gets there now. So
yeah. All right, let's jump over to the next one, the Arizona St. Louis game. Reasonable hitting weather, winds blowing out to right center at 12 miles an hour, 61 degrees. Not ideal, not terrible. Here's my other, me by now. Anybody knows me by now. If there's 2 stacks, I'm always gonna take shots on it. And it's not these pitchers can't be good. It's just the way. Oh, I'm in the wrong. Yeah, no, I'm in the right game. I like the idea of the underperforming St. Louis as being a good stack today. And I am not opposed now that we have lost a pitcher that Jack Flaherty is in play at 7,800. Having said that, Arizona has been pesky. I believe that they're actually a little better than they get credit for. Tend to be better at home. Not an immense amount of lefty power that's shown up yet. So I'm okay with the Flaherty as potentially. And I definitely have Cardinals as a stack. Maybe I'll play them with the KC, the Texas guys. But I'm into the Cardinal stack.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense for me. Again, we like to go against Merrill Kelly from time to time, so it certainly makes sense. I'm not quite getting the Cardinals as aggressively as you are. I'll probably end up. I'll get to them in Saber Sim when I build like a bunch of lineups, but I'm probably not going to put them in my big ones. And it's weird, like a play like Flaherty. Not all of a sudden, but with the absence of, say, Wheeler and Lynn, Flaherty now just kind of comes into play, So maybe that's not the worst idea in the world. I mean, right now, again, with my projections right now, I wouldn't get to him. But if I X out those other two, it kind of changed the slate a little bit. But yeah, so I'm going to give this one another look. Right now, probably going to be kind of just lukewarm on this game.
Yeah, I like the idea of getting different. I'm going to look at more lineups because I know we're going to get to the chalky Coors game, so I'm going to just try and be open to anything. Eric, you took that. So Eric, which one did you take down last night? Because I know you didn't take down the big one, but let me know which one you took down. Because I'm happy for you that took down the.
What did he do?
He chopped the NBA one last night. I think it was he chopped the night fadeaway or something like that. I don't know which one it was.
Nice.
But I don't know. Yeah, but hey, man, whatever works. That's great.
Post it in the Discord in the winning category, wherever.
Yeah, absolutely. Post it in the winning for sure. All right, let's talk about the next one. Sheets Toronto and Houston, which feels probably like just a stay away in general.
You think so?
What do you like?
Yeah, I don't know. Like whenever game's being played in Houston, I kind of want to look at it. And whenever Toronto's playing in a game, I kind of want to look at them. Not only and the Astros too. Now the problem is you have decent pitchers here, to say the least. Like with Gausman and Javier. Yeah. First of all, I think Javier is very, very legitimate. Whatchamacallit, SP2. As a matter of fact, with Lynn and Wheeler out, I think he moves right almost to the top of the list. I think in his last game he was very either poor. I got to look at this. Yeah, he was not good in his last game. But I would go back to him. I am going to go with something else, but I definitely wouldn't mind playing him. And I kind of, yet on the other hand, this is where I thought you were getting at when you said there's always a team, there's a team I'll play all the time or whatever. I thought Toronto was a team you were going to mention. Listen, the Toronto home field is good, but Houston can be a freaking bandbox too. You know what I mean? Like, I think that
Houston's proved to be one of the not a great hitters park since the removal of the cheating.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, it really isn't a great hitters park. I mean, they at one point they moved the wall back from when it was early on. People thought it was a much better hitters park than it was. Definitely much better for righties than it is for lefties. Okay. And I have no interest in picking on Javier. Like, could it happen? Sure. Like you have tons of power on the Blue Jays. I just don't see any reason to get that cute on this slate. Houston also with great bullpen. Like I don't know if Christian Javier ever gets hit hard. Like, but I also like he's not. I mean, he hits hard. I guess he had pitched poorly last time out, but even that, like, do we want 4 runs in 6 innings? He's pretty consistently in the mid 90s with his pitches. He's usually giving up 2 or 3 runs, and he's usually, striking out or whatever. I don't have any interest in him as a pitcher either. I don't have any interest in either of the. If I had to pick one of these guys, Gausman is an astronomically ahead of Houston. Houston's lineup is nowhere near as good as Toronto's.
You think Gausman's like a legitimate pivot off of DeGrom? I mean.
Yeah, I think you play them together though.
Oh, okay.
You to pivot. But I think Gausman, you could make an argument he's been the best pitcher in a lot of ways in baseball. All he does is go out there and he's given up 3 runs this season. He's pitched 20 innings. He threw 100 pitches last time out, and he's averaging 1.4 strikeouts per inning. Like I said, this is not the same Houston team. They're still scary enough to where I don't think Gausman is like a priority, but like it has to be like a massive priority. But I do think that like Gausman, DeGrom, I can definitely talk myself into that. But I just think you're getting almost like, I don't know, you're not safe with Gausman to play at this price, but against that team, I don't know. I'm sort of up in the air on it myself.
I'll tell you, the fact is we're moving along here, and I still haven't had a team that's upended Texas yet as the favorite stat. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I was considering something a Philly game, but that's gone, right? So far, I mean, I'm still on Texas as the Coors pivot, which we're going to get to right now, actually. So I have a question. Okay, does anybody pitch for Colorado except for Freeland? Like every time it seems that I'm analyzing Colorado, they're playing for Freeland is pitching. But I guess not. I guess Marquis does pitch for them, and I guess Arena does pitch for them. But it just seems as though Freeland pitches every day.
I kind of know what you're talking about, but it does feel like at least a disproportionate amount of the time that he is. And by the way, I just want to go through like can we have some fun with everybody for a second, because this is something that like everybody says every time. Oh, well, Freeland is going to get crushed this time, and he does this and that and everything. What exactly are people seeing from Freeland that makes us go, oh, we need to attack him? This guy, all he does, quality start after quality. He's given up 2 runs now this year in 18 and 2/3 innings. He's pitched 2 of those games at home against St. Louis, who you'd think would be a nightmare matchup for him. They hit 2 home runs. They also only scored 2 runs. He's not even going deep into the game because he's managing his pitches well. He doesn't walk a lot of guys. Like, I don't know, man. I'm not going to use him today. Don't get me wrong. But if he was like 4K, I might be talking about using him. He just doesn't strike out enough people. He's just a very solid, guy to potentially not pick on. And that, I guess, is going to be part of my take, because let's just take a look at the Pirates ownership. Now, you are getting some low, like if I had to pick any of them, Santana and McCutchen would be my favorites because they'll be a little bit lower owned. But every one of them is in play. I just don't think I need to go after that. And interestingly, like on the other side, I'm not seeing the ownership on Colorado as much, and I just don't understand it. Rich Hill has got plenty of tricks. He's a guy who we would be using in different spots. I don't know. We always think he's spent, and then he comes out and pitches a gem. It hasn't happened quite yet this year. So maybe this is the year he's finally spent. But all of the breaking stuff that he throws is just not going to work in Colorado, very, very likely. It's 68 degrees, not great, not horrible hitting weather, but 68 degrees is better than we've seen a lot lately. I'm on board with the Rockies more than I am with Pittsburgh, and that's probably that's my take on this game. I don't mind if you want to use the value, like if you have a chalky a stack that's not chalky. I think you could play like Santana and McCutchen in a mini stack, or any of the Pirates, to be honest with you. But I'm not looking to try and target the Pirates as a full stack at all. I'm going to stick with we aren't going to pick on Freeland thing, because if no one else was doing it, then maybe we take a shot. But when everyone else is doing it and it never works, it's good enough for me just to jump right off.
Yeah, I have Colorado as one of the best plays today. I have them rated pretty much the same as Pittsburgh at lower ownership. I'm not messing with Kyle Freeland. Why? I mean, why? I just, like you said, I mean, just why? There's no reason. I mean, like, right. Not to mention the Pirates stink. So it's like, right.
And they're missing.
I'm going to play 6,000 for Brian Reynolds. You know what I mean? I don't know what that's all about. Right. But I definitely like Colorado. Profar, Bryant, Crone, who else? Even Blackman.
Lefty, yeah.
Lefty. Who cares? Whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely like Colorado. I don't quite have it in me to play the Freeland, although once again, man, 2 pitchers are now removed. All right. There's going to be, like, I think now, like Javier or Gausman, I think they're going to probably try to play them, like you said, with both of them with DeGrom.
The problem with Freeland is his strikeout rate is so low that you kind of need him to be like flawless to get there, right?
Okay.
And even when he's flawless, he only puts up like 18 or 20 sometimes. Now he can strike out more of these Pirates. That's certainly possible. But I don't know. I can't quite get to him over like an upside play of Flaherty. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I like. So these are. So I'll put in Colorado instead of Texas for now. But we can go back to this. But I definitely feel comfortable with this matchup. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Yeah. This is going to be the chalk. The next game is going to have this is the second chalk pitch. Which one do you have? What game do you have next?
I have Cubs Oakland.
Okay, we'll go to that one first. Because they're all the 6:40 games at the same time, so I didn't know which one. Okay, so Cubs Oakland. Sheets, you want to start it off because I'm catching.
Yeah, I'm a little. Yeah, so it's really funny that you mentioned it. You're like, this next game is going to be where all the chalk.
I thought you were talking about Milwaukee.
Well, because it's like really annoying because that would have been really tilting because this is exactly what I want to do. I want to play. I want to play the Cubs, and I want to play Wisniewski. That's what I want to do. And when you come right in telling me, oh, this is going to be the chalk, I'm like, really? I can't even get a break with freaking the Cubs? For real? So this was kind of me playing around. Just again, I had the Cubs rated not great, but well enough. And given ownership, I kind of like them. and there was Wisniewski. Again, just for something lower owned to do against Oakland, I think this is pretty reasonable, and I would take a shot at this. So that's my initial, 11:55 a.m. leverage idea of the day. That would be the Cubs and Wisniewski.
54 degrees in Oakland. Do have some wind blowing out, 12 miles an hour.
There you go. That's something.
Yeah, it's Oakland's super cheap. I actually think that using them as like Brent Rooker is a guy who stands out. Is a cheap play. I don't have any interest in these pitchers.
Okay.
I need to see Wisniewski actually. I mean, this is a matchup you could do something. Like I think it's kind of sharp actually to think about him. I actually think he's going to get a little bit of ownership, which is kind of funny.
That's what I was thinking. That's my problem. We'll see.
Yeah, and I don't mind like the Cubs are expensive, man. Like outside of a couple of spots, the top four guys.
You don't want to play Dansby Swanson at 5,600? Let's go.
Dansby Swanson at 5,600 in Oakland at 50. Like when this guy, all of his numbers are padded by playing from last year's Atlanta, like in the great hitters park. I can't get into it personally for me on this slate, but I'm not against it. I just personally don't love it. And Oakland, I just see more as value, like guys you can fit in. And I don't have any interest in the pitching particularly. I think I'm going to have a more narrow pitching pool tonight. But Wisniewski is the kind of play you can get away with and maybe win a tournament. There's a good chance that if he throws 90 pitches to the A's, like you should be in play all the time at that. You know what I mean? So yeah. And people who want to fight me back and say, well, the A's have scored some runs, just don't even bother. First of all, they strike out like crazy. They don't have any power. If you're going to play guys, use like the one-offs, like because they're cheap, not because. Don't play the A's just because like it's like, we don't know who this Wisniewski is, and let's play the A's. It just doesn't seem like the right thing to do. I do think that the Cubs. I know, Eric. You don't need to repeat it every time. You're stacking out every single conversation cannot be about Oakland. Tell me when it works one time, and then when we'll talk about it.
It's going to work tonight when it was Wisniewski. That's when it's going to work.
What's that?
It's going to work tonight when I have Wisniewski into my big buy. That's what it's going to work.
Yeah, maybe that is the night. But I don't mind the mini the in between plays depending on where Mancini hits at 2,700. That's what I have this whole game as. And I mentioned Brent Rooker at 27, assuming that he's in the lineup today. Aledmus Diaz, if he's batting in the 3 hole at 32. They have guys that make sense. You're just almost never winning tournaments with these guys. Almost ever. Like and if it is, wait till the weather's warmer. Like, believe me, I've gone to more games in Oakland than all of you guys watching combined. I promise. The weather is not pretty. It's not fun. It's not quite San Francisco, but it is nasty. And it's hard enough to hit that stadium when it's hot. But when it's cold, it's really hard to hit in that stadium, which shouldn't even be a stadium anymore, by the way. Anyway, it's another point. We can move on to the next one. Milwaukee, Seattle. I think this is the thing with the Burns thing. I don't think you should expect him to go out there and be perfect again. But there's no way he won't be the second highest owned pitcher. It won't even be close between he and DeGrom. They'll be way ahead of everybody else, in my opinion. So I'm just throwing that out there. I also think you can make a really good case for Milwaukee. Unfortunately, you have a terrible hitter's park, but there is some power here. We talked about it. We've seen some of it. They're interesting to stack because everybody will be like, oh, but it's great. They did this. They score in the ways that you want them to. They still don't walk enough for me to like them as a 5-man stack very often. But I do think that like between Contreras, Tellez, Adames, and Yelich, the top of the order, and then if you did want to make the 5-man, you could include like Mitchell, Anderson, or Terang, potentially even Brousseau. It's affordable. It makes sense in some ways as a stack. I don't think I want to stack it, but I do think I wouldn't mind some pieces like Tellez standing out and Contreras as two of my favorites. So I don't mind the little bits of pieces, maybe a 2 or 3-man from Milwaukee. But Burns is clearly the number 2 pitcher on the slate.
Yeah. So Eric's in here right now.
Yep.
So Eric, I have a question for you. You're 20% of the A's. Oh, you like the Brewers? Well, forget it. Because
you want to play Flexen?
No, I kind of want to play Seattle.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Take the case.
I don't know. I just kind of want to play Seattle. I didn't want to before Lynn and Wheeler got scratched. Because with Lynn and Wheeler scratched, as you mentioned, I mean, Burns is going to be just so freaking popular that I want to consider it. You know, I'm probably not going to end up doing it. Listen, I have much better options in my big buys than playing Seattle. I really do. But I definitely want to consider it, and I definitely don't want to play DeGrom and Burns together unless I'm doing something with like the Cubs or. Can you get away?
No, Texas and St. Louis. You're totally fine to play the other ones.
I'm all right with
Texas. Totally fine to play the other ones. I totally disagree with that. I really do.
I can play DeGrom, Burns, and 5 Texas people and not be duped all over the world.
Who has playing Texas? No, I think you're making this up in your head because of what we like. But
okay, fair enough.
I don't think it's happening. I mean,
it's all good. I got other stuff to play later, even if I don't want to do that.
Okay, so. Well, yeah, but here's the problem with Texas, though, too. Like, here's the thing: I'll change my tune if Texas puts like their 2K guys all at the top of the order or something, because then people will play them.
Right.
But I don't think that's going to be the case. I think there'll be one of them up there. But anyway.
But Burns is obviously very solid.
Yeah, he is. But it is. I mean, in all fairness, Texas is a good they have a good offense in at least in theory.
Seattle.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Seattle has a good offense, at least in theory, and it doesn't matter. Like, Burns is 8,800, and Eric could talk about how he's overrated all he wants to. This guy just wins Cy Youngs and goes out there and, you know, gives up 3 runs or more like 4 times in 35 starts a year. You know what I mean? Otherwise, you get the 10 strikeouts, 7 innings out of him. And if it works once, if it works 10% of the time, great. But even when it works, you're only getting like 3 runs. I personally can't get behind it. But it wouldn't surprise me if you want to pick off a one home run batter or something. But Texas also hasn't been particularly good offensively this year. I'm into Burns. I may try and get off the chalk a little bit, but I don't think that you need to get as crazy. Also, you've got Flaherty and Gaussman as options, as I think reasonable to get off of Burns if you want to. All right, which one do you have next?
So we start off Atlanta, San Diego. So we start off our lineups with 10% Atlanta just for openers, and then we have to figure out whether we want to play more. You know, that's basically the idea. Not to mention that they have a good matchup, or you know, maybe not the greatest. It looks like a decent enough matchup to me. So I definitely start with Atlanta. I don't really even look at the price, and they're going to be in play for me. I don't want to play Max Fried, but I don't want to play anybody against him, so I'm probably off of San Diego. And yeah, that's it.
That makes perfect sense. Yeah, I'm not interested in Fried, not interested in Stack and playing against him, and I always have interest in Atlanta, especially as the ownership. I actually think they might get a little more popular than people think tonight. Like, they're a team I could see spiking, and they're actually getting some owners. To be honest, I think they might be more owned than any of the Colorados. Yeah, based on the owner, the combined ownership, I actually have Atlanta as more popular than Pittsburgh and Colorado. So that's a situation where I'm probably going to take the fade route. I want to play them every day, like I say, but if they're going to be the massive chalk, and I don't know if they'll be massive, but going into San Diego, not a good hitter's park, huge stadium downgrade for them, 56 degrees, not ideal for that. Maybe I'll take the approach of okay, let them beat me tonight. But yes, they stand out as being a good stack. I just think I don't really want to play a chalky stack in terrible hitting weather and basically sort of in a bullpen-ish game is what I think it's going to turn into with Weathers.
Well, listen. I mean, if you didn't like any of that or any or all of that, and listen, you're playing the NBA. Everybody's playing the NBA two game slate. Don't kid yourself. And for those of you following me, everybody's playing NHL hockey tonight that's been playing NHL in the regular season. Let's put it that way. So everybody's going to be up all night sweating Edmonton anyway, whether they either played them or didn't play them. If you didn't like any or all of that, let me ask you this question, Bobby, because I'm playing the Dodgers. I mean, that's 100% true, okay? You can tell me Alexa's telling me it's 40 degrees there. I don't care. But the other thing is that, again, the Wheeler-Lynn thing, is it possible that Dustin May is in play here? Because he's really, first of all, he's really good at pitching. And number two, Like, I mean, listen, it's not the Mets are not bad. Obviously, I could think of better matchups, but in this price range, I mean, like if you don't want to play Burns, like for example, or hell, you don't want to play DeGrom, you want to go play Burns and Dustin May I think Dustin May is totally reasonable here, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I have May. I think Dustin May is just a little below Flaherty for me because the matchup. I do think the Mets are a little tougher.
That makes sense.
Are you going to give me the Mets revenge from 1988? I thought I was going to hear the whole story about that.
No, you're not going to hear that one.
When one of the greatest teams of all time, we missed out on the showdown of the greatest baseball teams of all time between the Mets and Oakland, and the Dodgers ruined the party and beat the hell out of both of them. Although they beat the Mets in 7.
No, because you know what? That was revenge for 77 and 78 back-to-back years.
That was revenge for all the Dodgers record in World Series is like 5-30.
Right.
No, it's actually 6-30.
Right.
Anyway, I love the idea of the Dodgers here because I'm not a Peterson hater. I actually think
I am.
I know, because you watch, because this is what happens when you're close to it. You see a guy who just walks a bunch of people, and nothing drives you crazier as a fan when somebody gets walked, consistently. The Dodgers are not a team you want to mess with in terms of patience. They coach it, they preach it. The guys who come over who used to have no patience now all have patience. I think this is an interesting spot to attack them. I'm totally good with the Dodgers. I have them just a little behind the other ones. It is 56 degrees, but there is 13-mile-an-hour winds blowing out to center. These guys between Muncy and JD Martinez and Betts and all these guys, like there's plenty of power to get it out of there. I'd include Freddie Freeman, but he sort of decided to stop becoming a massive home run hitter for some reason. Trace Swanson, he'll be there. Chris Taylor kills these lefties. I'm good with the Dodgers. Again, it's just, do I want to pick on Peterson and a good Mets bullpen, or do I want to pick on the two guys I love picking on, Merrill Kelly, who probably doesn't throw another no-hitter today or a near no-hitter, right. And do I want to play Texas against Jordan Lyles? I have those guys a little bit ahead, but the Dodgers are my next full stack, and Colorado is my favorite complementary stack. And actually, if Colorado stays low-owned, I'm happy to move them into my priorities.
I'll tell you something interesting that based on what you said. You talk about how technology and sweating now versus whatever. It's so funny. You're like, well, you're just used to watching Peterson, whatever it is. The way things work as far as TV coverages and blackouts and stuff like that here. Do you know, I've not watched a single inning of a Met game this year.
Really?
Or a Yankee game. Because the way it works here is that I have Dish Network.
Yeah.
And Dish Network is blocked. They can't show Yankees and Mets, okay, around here.
Right.
And so not only that, but because they're blocked, the MLB network, which I pay for every other country, every other team in the world, I can get everybody else except no Mets and Yankees.
Hey, you're preaching to the choir, man. I get no Lakers for NBA. I get no, they're on national TV all the time. I get no Dodgers, and I get no Angels, which I don't care about the Angels much, but I like sweating. Yeah. But it drives me freaking nuts. And there's no loophole I can find around it unless I switch all my networks. And I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to switch all my networks. So I have to jury rig something, or I just go to my family's place because they haven't missed an inning of a Dodger game in like 30 years.
Yeah. So in any case, I got some options here. You know, the Dodgers, the Braves, you know what? As I'm recounting these, I don't need to place yet. Cubs is my flyer. Colorado. I don't need to play Toronto anymore because I thought of other teams. Texas, I like that. Now it's becoming kind of a compact slate, right? Because it was 9, and now there's no White Sox. And you say there might be some other fishiness?
Well, no, I'm just saying that there's just in general we have weather to worry. Well, the other worry was for a game that's not on this slate, but it's for a team that we picked for the Survivor.
We'll talk about that
in the one they allowed us to. I'm just looking at some. I'm higher on Texas, St. Louis, and Colorado, and then after that is the Dodgers, then Atlanta for me. That's where I'm at today. And for pitching, I like DeGrom and Burns, but that's going to be the chalk. And my other guys are going to be Flaherty, Gausman, May, and that's pretty much it.
Okay.
As of right now, I might change my mind later. He didn't say he's off the Rockies, Eric. He just didn't mention the Rockies. We don't generally mention the Rockies as like being a team, you know what I mean? Because it's Colorado, but you might get the ownership on them low enough today. Although
no, Eric, you completely misheard me, or I misspoke. No, I like Colorado.
Yeah. I think that, but again, we don't speak about them as much because it's just sort of like, okay, yeah, we know the Coors game is going to get played. But I do like the other stacks today. There are some options. I think so. It should be a fun slate.
Wait. I have kind of a strategy question for you. So you play like the big one, and then you also play the 250, like for example.
Yeah, usually.
What else do you play? Are you going to be playing more than one?
The best tournament to play is the 121. Everybody should play. If you play DFS, you have to play the 121.
No, that's not what I was asking. So let's just say that you're playing tonight. I don't know if you're going to play 2 in the 888 or 2 in the 250 or whatever it is.
Yeah, I know your question's coming. Yeah,
go ahead. No, yeah. If you like 4 stacks, would you like put one in each of them, or do you like anything tonight, for example?
The thing about baseball is you don't have to put one in each of them. You can put 2 in there.
Right.
So you negate it that way. But in general, let's say I'm playing 7 lineups that have a buy-in of over $100.
Okay.
3 of them are going to be focused around one team. Okay. And then the other pieces, the other teams, what I'll usually end up doing is mini stacking the other team with those teams if I like them. So like maybe I'd play Texas and St. Louis together. I'd play Colorado and the Dodgers together, or Atlanta, something like that. Well, actually, I probably would want to go lower. But in general, I think you want to try for your 5-man stacks to not have more than 4 or 5 if you're multi-entering. And if you're playing 5, you should never be playing 5 different stacks. That's a terrible strategy, and it's almost never going to work. You
need 5 different 5-man stacks.
Yeah, 5 different 5-man stacks. If you're going to play 5, I think that you're better off playing just 1 stack if you do that, or you're better off playing 2, maximum of 3.
That's so interesting.
And I've gone through this strategy thing a lot with people in the past, and I actually think most of the top pros are sort of on the same page of this. Try to narrow it down. Try to stick with those things. Yeah. It happens in basketball sometimes if you like 3 players in the same price range and you're playing 5 lineups. I don't think the answer is to try and get equal amounts of them. I think you have to try and pick your guy and just then keep the other one you like in the one lineup or something like that. You mainly want to focus as much as you can. So like tonight, what I would do is I'll probably, like, you might see me in my main lineup with Texas, St. Louis, but then in my secondary lineup, it might be Texas and Colorado, or St. Louis and Colorado, or the Dodgers in there as that. And I'm like other people, I'm very happy going 4-4. I have no problem doing 4-4 stacks instead of 5-3s.
Well, now you're going to be appealing to my OCD stuff, because now what's going to end up happening is I'm going to take like 3 teams I like, and I'm going to do like all combination of the 4-4s.
Yeah, there you go.
Make them look all nice and pretty.
No, I'm serious. I'm curious. I mean, again, there hasn't been really results to this, but I'm curious if someone just played 4-4 stacks the whole season versus 5 whatever stacks, what would be the number? It's really hard to calculate because nobody's willing to do it. You know what I mean?
Right.
But the numbers I would guess would be very, very close. Anyway. All right. So we'll get out of here. We'll be live at 6 Eastern, and we can go over NBA stuff as well. Then I'm going to play the 2-gamer. I'm going to play these playoffs. Do you want to do me a favor? Do you want to do like a preview? Yeah, let's do a preview.
We'll do a preview because I've been finding that when we do the live thing, this is me being selfish. Like I'm just unprepared to talk about NBA, having not talked about it yet. So
I'd love to talk about it.
Do you want to give me like 15 minutes, like at 12:30?
Perfect.
Okay, I'll see you at 12:30.
Good luck, everybody, and we'll see you soon.